Hey, what's going on guys, Ash here. So this week we're not really getting an issue of Power Rangers Prime. Power Rangers Prime issue 6 will be dropping next week on April 30th. But Boom Studios did release something this week on April 23rd, and that is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Across the Morphin Grid. Now what this softcover collection is, it contains several stories that released last year leading up to the release of Power Rangers Prime. So this contains Power Rangers Infinity, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers / Usagi or Jimbo, and Power Rangers Across the Morphin Grid. Now I did separate reviews for each one of these stories on the channel, but there's been one thing I've been wanting to test the waters for on the longest time with the channel, and that is sort of putting all my separate reviews into a compilation. So whenever Boom Studios releases a trade back or a hardcover or something like that, I'll try and get those compilation videos out on the same day as when they usually release with the Boom Studios release. So that way I've got the entire story arc or the entire trade back in a single video. And that way it's more of a longer video, you'll get more enjoyment out of it, more watch time out of it, stuff like that. So people will probably appreciate the longer story arc videos than like the separate issue videos, so that way you get the entire story arc within that one video. So yeah, this is something new I want to try and we'll see where it goes. But if you don't want to watch this compilation video, then come back next week for my review of Power Rangers Prime issue 6. And with that said, let's start the compilation of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Across the Morphin Grid. So Power Rangers Infinity is finally out, written by Sam Humphries and artwork done by Brandt T. and Stein. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But the best way to describe Power Rangers Infinity is that it's Power Rangers meets Across the Spider-Verse with not a lot of cocaine done, but a fair bit, I would say, with how wacky and silly and goofy this comic book is. So when this comic book was first announced, it got a lot of mixed reception, it got a lot of hate, and I can understand why, because I think some fans thought that this comic book would be the next big series because it came out right after the Darkest Hour finale when the MMPR comic books was coming to an end after 8 long years, so people thought, well, this is the next series they're rolling out. I hate it already. I don't like the comic book cover, I don't like the designs, I don't like the concept, and I can understand that. And I know that after last month we had the Darkest Hour finale, and a lot of fans walked away from the finale of that comic book arc feeling either angry, satisfied, or mixed opinions overall. And the Darkest Hour story arc each month was a crazy roller coaster. Things were wrapping up, things were getting crazy. We had no idea how that story arc was going to end. And to have a one-shot like this that is very colourful, very silly, very wacky, very goofy, it's a breath of fresh air whether you love it or hate it. So what is the story of this book? What is the story of Power Rangers Infinity? Well, the concept of this book is Poisandra from Dino Charge wants to break the Power Rangers cycle. Now, what exactly is the Power Rangers cycle? Well, it's pretty easy to explain. So you know how after each season, there's always a different theme of Rangers that's always out there, from dinosaurs to vehicles to ninjas to samurais. There's always like a different theme of Rangers after each show, after each season, and they call it a power cycle. And Poisandra wants to break the power cycle and keep creating teams of Power Rangers until she can create Rangers she can actually beat. And by doing that, she's going to use our protagonist Lola to break that cycle. Well, Lola is an upcoming comic book artist and writer, and Poisandra believes that she can probably use Lola to create something so bad that it will create a team of Power Rangers she can actually defeat. And having Poisandra as the antagonist of this story is so out of left field, I freaking love it, because out of all the Power Ranger villains, they picked Poisandra. Not that I'm saying that's a bad thing, but what I wish they could have done is they could have had Poisandra have her own ragtag team of D-list villains from the Power Rangers franchise, from like Elgar to maybe, I don't know, Slifer and Mucus, Scrozzle, all those wacky, silly, goofy villains from the Power Rangers like years or like the past 30 years come together to sort of form their own team. It'd be a lot of fun because you could sort of build off the you can sort of build off the characters, make them bounce off each other with how they act and stuff like that. But having Poisandra in this comic, like the artwork for her is really freaking great, because I've always loved the Poisandra design from Super Sentai. I can't remember the Sentai's character's name, where the suit's from. It's on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember it, but people in the comment section will probably correct me if they're watching this video. But it's always such a silly, menacing design, but I also love it. And here in the comic, the artist does a really good job at doing that. Like, you'll have Poisandra having all of these wacky expressions, from smiling like evilly or sinisterly, you could say. Is that even a word? Just like all the expressions that the artist gave Poisandra is like a lot of fun, with that sort like that dumb bondage mask, heart-shaped design. I freaking love it. It's cool to have Poisandra as a villain. No Sledge though, unfortunately. I love Sledge. Sledge is the GOAT, but hey, Poisandra gets her own time to shine in this issue. Now, Lola in this one-shot, she's not the deepest character. She's your typical, I want to be a writer for this comic, I don't have the confidence in myself, I don't have the confidence in myself to be a ranger, but then she makes friends, and then she suddenly has the confidence in herself. And there's this one scene in the issue where you see Poisandra put on this machine on her head, and she sort of sees, like, the despair in her life as she goes through her life if she never became a comic book writer and artist, if she just gave up on her dream and lived a normal, boring life. And one of the things I will say, I will shout out the artist again. There's a scene to Spider-Man No More, or that scene from Spider-Man 2 where the suit's in the bin and Peter's walking away from the trash can. They recreate that scene here, but it's Lola like throwing her comic books in the trash can and she's walking away from it. So I really do like how they reference that iconic Spider-Man comic there. I think that's pretty freaking cool. But like I said, Lola, she's okay. I don't love her, I don't hate her. She's alright, I'll just say that. But she's okay. Now, let's talk about the other Ranger teams that we get introduced in this comic book, because there's a lot to go over with these original Rangers that were introduced in Power Rangers Infinity. So when Power Rangers Infinity was first announced, we got our first look at the cover. A lot of people were criticizing the Rangers that were on the cover. They thought this would be our brand new Ranger team we'd be following for years to come, because there was no theme, it was all over the place, and people had no idea what was going on. But when you actually start reading the book, you understand that all these different Rangers are from across the multiverse of Power Rangers. So we've got these different reject Rangers teaming up together to fight Poisandra. And I want to go over each one of the teams and go over their Ranger names, their designs, and what I think of them overall, because there's a lot to go over. So first up is the Black Ranger known as Captain Mangus Storm. Mangus? A pirate ranger. And this is funny to see, because we all know that Super Megaforce used footage from Gokaiger, a pirate-themed Sentai series, and they barely half the time acknowledged the pirate theming. It was just there for the sake of being there. And here we have a full-blown pirate ranger team, and they even named their ship after Trini, the Yellow Ranger, by calling it Trini's Fort Line. Now, design-wise, I do like them. They're very piratey. Blue's an interesting note because they're sleeveless. It's an interesting look for it. Now, I kind of wish we got more of a better glimpse of these pirate rangers, because I'd probably be making One Piece comparisons with who does what here. But these designs, very piratey. I do dig them. Now, the Yellow Ranger is called Brayley Blackthorn, the Pom-Pom Ranger. Now, the Ranger name and design says it all. They're based on cheerleaders. The helmet I'm not a big fan of. I'm not entirely sure what it's trying to be here. Maybe someone can correct me in the comment section down below. And we do get a look at their Megazord, and I can't comment too much on it. It looks like a transform with the shape of it. We don't see a detailed look on it. It's just very silhouetted, and it's covered up as they're sort of doing their jump into the mech pose where they do the cheerleader launch for Brayley. Now, next up is the Pink Ranger, called Lady Penelope Prescott, the Pride and Prejudice Ranger. Something is crazy to say out loud. The Pride and Prejudice Ranger. like, their designs, to be honest, when we get to see their world, do look pretty cool as well, because you've got the helmet visors based on masquerade masks, and then you've got the ranger suit designs that are actual, like, ballroom dresses or just, like, fancy outfits they would wear. Really freaking cool. Like, I think you even see some of the, like, rangers in the background in, like, suits, which is pretty freaking cool. I do like the designs. Like, the designs for the Pink Ranger is really unique as well. I do freaking dig it. And not only that, they've got, like, the fan as the weapon. So, another unique design and a crazy, like, ranger idea they drop in this comic, because there's a lot more to go over. Then we've got the Blue Ranger called Peggy from the Peggy Rangers, and I'm trying so hard not to do a Hank Hill impression right now when I say Peggy out loud. But you might as well call them the Golden Girl Rangers, because there's a bunch of old ladies. Their visors are giant glasses, the suits are your typical old people clothes from giant sweaters and jackets, and I love their weapons as well, because they've got giant scissors, balls of yarn, sewing needles, and an icing gun or a hot glue gun. Like, these are probably like the wackiest designs I've seen so far in this comic. They get even wackier, but when I first saw like old lady rangers, I was like, this is insane. I freaking love it. Like, I love their designs of how wacky and silly and goofy it is. Like, this is like I said, this is like Power Rangers meets the Across the Spider-Verse, but if you did a little bit of cocaine, but you didn't do a lot of cocaine, so it's kind of weird. And then last on the list, we've got the Polar Bear Ranger, Kumo. He's a polar bear who plays ice hockey. Not much I can say about it. I mean, he's a polar bear. Now, we're also introduced to other original Rangers in this book: Power Rangers Paladin Force, Power Rangers Personal Trainer Force, and Power Rangers Paisley Overdrive. And their designs are just as wacky and crazy as well. So, Paladin Force being actual knights, and if you get the reference, you get the reference. Now, the Paladin Rangers, my main complaint is that they have the MMPR / Dual Ranger Diamond slapped on the middle there, and I feel like they didn't need to add the MMPR Diamond on there, because maybe they could have given them some more armor, maybe they could have slapped a house emblem on there. They didn't really have to fill that space with the MMPR Diamond on there. I feel like they could have added something else on there to make it a unique knight or paladin design. Now, Personal Trainer Force are beefcake of rangers, and I freaking love that, because, like I said, that's just a really goofy design. They've got no spandex outfits, they've just got rangers showing off their muscles and body, which makes sense. They're called fitness rangers, so they'd want to show off their bodies. Now, the last set of rangers we've got on this list is the Power Rangers Paisley Overdrive team, and these rangers are based on famous bands. I mean, you've got the Red Ranger, obviously based on Prince, with the symbol on the helmet with the visor is, and then you've got the Green Ranger, which is probably based on Gene Simmons with the bat or the demon motif going on. And then I believe that the Blue Ranger could be possibly based on Slash from Guns N' Roses. And then the Pink Ranger, no idea, typical diva, it could be anyone. I have no idea who it could be. But I really do like their designs, especially the Green Ranger and the Blue Ranger with the top hat. They look pretty cool. Like I said, these designs we get in the comic is just so colorful, so unique, so wacky, so silly. And it's cool to see stuff like this, because we're seeing all these unique Ranger designs from these different artists, and I'm hoping we sort of get like character sheets and designs of what they look like later down the line. Okay, now that I've talked about the Rangers and their unique designs for half the video, I want to talk about the meta humor that's in this comic, because I do like the references they make to the Power Rangers franchise, but not only that, like the comic book itself, because when Lola is presenting her Power Rangers idea to one of the writers at Boom, one of the jokes they make is, oh, a new Power Rangers comic, didn't we end this recently? Which is kind of a funny wink and a nod, because, you know, they ended the Power Ranger comic like a month prior before this comic releasing, so I really like that. And then there's also Poisandra showing up by going, oh, Posandra, I haven't seen her since Ninja Steel. No, wait, Beast Morphers. So I like that reference within itself where there's sort of jokes about the continuity and sort of like people who work on the comics struggle to remember stuff about Power Rangers because, you know, there's so much to keep up with. That's what I liked about this issue. I was thinking I'd get this sort of like Akiba Ranger parody with this comic, and although we got some of that humor there, I was thinking we'd get a full-blown Akiba Ranger parody with this one-shot, but maybe we'll get something like that later down the line, sort of like a homage to Akiba Ranger where it makes fun of like the Power Ranger tropes and sort of like the campiness and the goofiness to it and turns that into a comic where it pokes fun at itself. Like hopefully we get that later down the line, but Power Rangers Infinity, it's a fun little one-shot because for the next couple of months we're going to be getting one-shots from Boom Studios. We've got the Usagi crossover next month, and then in October we've got the Power Rangers Across the Multiverse storyline going on, or Across the Morphin Grid releasing, which I'm definitely going to be covering on the channel. And then Power Rangers Prime is coming out in November. The rumored Power Rangers Prime will be dropping. So I'm excited to talk about that and cover those books on the channel. But overall, Power Rangers Infinity, I enjoyed, I got a kick out of, and I'd like to hear what you guys thought of this review or this one-shot, because I know a lot of people said they're probably going to just watch my video and they'll sort of go off on it from that. Then I totally get that. Like, I knew that this book wouldn't be for everyone, and although it wasn't like 100% from me, I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it, that's for sure. But anyway, guys, I'll see you guys later. Peace out, take care, and thank you for watching. The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers are back for another crossover written by Ryan Parrott, this time crossing over with Usagi Yojimbo. So if you don't know anything about Usagi Yojimbo, he's this rabbit who's also a samurai who's from feudal era Japan, created by Stan Sakai back in 1984. Now, most of my knowledge about this character comes from TMNT, and originally I thought that Usagi was a TMNT character because that's where I'd mostly seen him in, but actually Usagi Yojimbo is the star of his own comic book series. And this crossover celebrates 40 years of Usagi Yojimbo. But MMPR/Usagi Yojimbo, written by Ryan Parrott and artwork done by Sean Daly, is amazing. Especially the artwork here. I want to touch upon the artwork now because the artwork here feels like and looks like what an animated Power Rangers series could be, and Sean's art style here does give me major Dragon Ball vibes with how some of the heads are shaped and how some of the eyes are drawn for particular characters. Most of the time you have Billy, Zack and Kimberly having their eyes drawn almost like Krillin, and characters like Tommy and Jason will have that sort of serious look on their face with them where they have those Vegeta-like eyes, but during some moments you do see the eye expressions change from time to time. So the art style for this comic book you can definitely put up there with how I would like an animated Power Rangers series to look and feel. And I know that some people are probably going to complain that this is MMPR, we have enough MMPR as it is, and why can't it be a season like Samurai or something like that, and I understand that criticism or questioning, but with Ryan Parrott at the helm here, he gets to use the MMPR team in this strange and unique crossover, and in my opinion, Ryan does have a really good understanding of these characters, and here, he gets to have some fun with them. And you can definitely see that with how some of the dialogue is written here, especially at the start of the comic when the Rangers are sent back in time or transported to this brand new world, where Trini tells them not to create any butterfly effects, and Tommy's response to this is that he won't kill any butterfly. But Kimberly asks the questions that we're all thinking when we're reading this comic. Are they speaking Japanese or are they speaking English? And it's moments like that or other moments throughout the comic that make this one-shot special a lot of fun. Now for this video, I won't be doing a play-by-play breaking down everything that happens. I'll go over the story, but I'll be touching upon certain key moments that I definitely want to talk about and give a lot of attention in this video. So if you've already read this one-shot before, you probably know what's going to be the main talking point of this video. So with that said, let's jump into the story of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and Usagi Yojimbo. So let's go over the story. So the story of MMPR / Usagi or Jimbo has the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers team being transported to feudal Japan, and the Rangers run into Tamatsu, who requests the Rangers to help them out because monsters have been stealing their children and murdering their livestock, and villagers have been powerless to stop them. And of course, the Rangers, being the heroes that they are, they decide to help out Tamatsu, and they sort of go on this journey with him, and you can easily tell that the Rangers are being stringed along, they're being manipulated, and that fully comes into play once we meet Usagi. And once the Rangers have this really cool battle with Usagi, they figure out what's going on here, and they find out they've been tricked by Tamatsu, who used the Rangers as a distraction so he can get something called the Dragon's Eye, which is going to be a big plot point within this issue. And I really enjoyed the fight scene between Usagi and the Rangers. I mean, Usagi being a rabbit, not only that, being a Ronin samurai, you get to see some really cool fight scenes and some really cool fight choreography and some really great artwork here between the two different factions fighting. But Tamatsu is able to get the Dragon's Eye, and the Dragon's Eye is something that he wanted the whole time because you find out that he was the apprentice of this little, deer antler girl mage thing that he worked under, and Tamatsu went evil. But Tamatsu able to have the Dragon's Eye. It does have some effects on our heroes. Kimberly and Tommy are almost killed, and Jason knows that he was taken advantage of, and he almost goes down this path of revenge because the mistakes that he made, getting taken advantage of, it put his friend's life in danger. But after hearing a speech from Usagi, he learns that revenge isn't the answer to avenge his friends. So the confrontation we have between Tamatsu and him trying to summon Shinonome, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but the final confrontation we get between our heroes and the villains is freaking insane. So you have the Rangers confronting Tamatsu, and they morph, and instead of morphing into their regular Mighty Morphin suits, what they morph into is a brand new original design for these comics, and that is these sort of Power Rangers samurai Shogun-esque forms we get that look frickin' insane. I don't know where to begin with these suits, I just frickin' love them. You can see that they've still got the MMPR suit underneath, and then they've sort of got the Japanese clothing atop of it. But not only that, their weapons have changed as well. I mean, Kimberly's got more of a traditional Japanese bow, Tommy's rocking more of a different kind of dagger, Trini's got different weapons going on, Billy's got different weapons going on, Zach's got a giant axe, he looks like freaking Bui from Yu Yu Hakusho, which is crazy, and Jason's got a big ass sword with a dragon mouth in it, and it looks freaking amazing. I love these designs. These designs are cooking. These designs look freaking amazing. And when I turned the page and I saw them, my jaw was dropping. So we have Shinonome able to get summoned, and we have this giant Shenron looking dragon. And the Rangers trying to stop it, they end up summoning the Dragon Zord. But not only that, there's Zords as well, and we see the Dragon Zord battle mode getting activated. How does it get transported to this different dimension? No idea, but just roll with it because it's really awesome to see this giant Zord and Shenron battle between the two of them. So, because the Dragon Zord's in battle mode, you have Jason and Usagi riding in together, and what we have is Usagi launching themselves off the T-Rex Zord, and because Usagi's a rabbit, he gets to bounce around the place, and he's able to stab the Dragon's Eye and stop Shinonome and Tamatsu in the end. So the day is saved once again thanks to our Rangers. And Tamatsu here isn't really killed, he's just sent to the underworld. So if Ryan gets brought on board for another sequel, well, the doors are open if they want to bring back that previous villain, which is cool to see. Who knows what Ryan will cook up when he does a sequel to this one-shot. So the issue ends with our heroes saying goodbye, and Usagi thanks our heroes with a bow, which confuses the hell out of Kim because she's like, we saved the world and all we get is a bow, which is kind of funny. Because, different cultural, different respects and stuff like that, different appreciations, I kind of got a laugh out of that, they were thinking they would get some big parade, but instead they just get a bow of appreciation. Kind of funny in a way, you could say. But Usagi says he'll go wherever he's needed, because he's a wandering Ronin. but Billy says that they managed to find 2 versions of the Dragon Eyes, and it looks like they need to put it back together again, so that is definitely setting up the sequel later down the line if pieces of the Dragon Eye is scattered out there. But our Rangers are soon transported back to their dimension, they're back to their timeline, and Usagi is left wandering about, and we'll probably see him again later down the line. And that's pretty much Mighty Morphin Power Rangers / Usagi Yojimbo, and overall I thought this was a pretty good one-shot. I really enjoyed this one-shot. I wasn't sure what to expect when I first jumped into this comic. I mean, Ryan was at the helm, and I love Ryan's writing, but I'm not that familiar with Usagi Yojimbo. But having the Rangers team up with this rabbit was a lot of fun, and I hope we see more crossovers like this in the nearby future. I mean, we've got like Naruto and the Ninja Turtles teaming up, Ninja Turtles and He-Man teaming up, like, Ninja Turtles teaming up with everyone these days. But hopefully we get more Power Ranger crossovers in the nearby future. I know we get like a couple once in a few blue moons. We just wrapped up the Godzilla one. But hopefully we get something like this later down the line, because Usagi is owned by Dark Horse Studios, I believe. It says that on the front, so maybe we can get a different comic book series teaming up with the Power Rangers in the nearby future. I mean, we had the Justice League many years ago, so maybe we're due for a sequel for that, I don't know. But this one-shot I really, really did enjoy, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too. So what did you guys think of this comic? Tell me in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. And with that said, I will catch you guys later. Peace out, take care, thanks for watching, and have a wonderful day or night. Bye. Alright, so Power Rangers Across the Morphin Grid is out now. If you don't know what Across the Morphin Grid is, it's an oversized anthology issue that features several Power Ranger actors writing stories featuring their characters. You've got David Yost writing a story about Billy, Walter Jones writing a story about Zach, Steve Cardenas writing a story about Rocky, Nikita Baris writing a story about Tanya, and you've got Megan Camarena writing a story about Chloe from Hyperforce. Not only that, you've also got Matt Groom and JD Stutfin helping along with these stories as well. Now, much like what I did last year with the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 30th anniversary one-shot comic that came out last year, I'll be covering each one of these stories in separate videos. I'll probably put them together in a big compilation or probably in a playlist, but if you just want to hear one story over the other, well, you'll be able to find them in their own separate videos. Also, special thanks to Boom Studios for sending me a review copy of Across the Morphin Grid, much appreciated. Also, don't forget you can support the official release by buying a physical copy at your local comic book store, buying a digital copy online, but also Across the Morphin Grid is getting a trade back release in March 2025, where we'll have this one shot in it, along with the other previous one shots we've had within the past couple of months, like Power Rangers Infinity and the MMPR and Usagi Yojimbo crossover we had last month as well. So if you want to get this in trade back form, Boom Studios will be releasing it in a collection with other one-shots. So without any further ado, let's get into Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Across the Morphin Grid, starting with the first story, Billy's Metamorphosis. Alright, so the Billy story. So the Billy story is quite the interesting one, because when we first found out that we were getting a Billy story written by David Yost, I was under the assumption that maybe we'd get a Billy story that would bridge the gap with what happened with Billy between Power Rangers Zero and Once and Always. Find out what happened during those in-between years that led up to Once and Always. Like maybe Billy finding out that Zordon sort of had his tomb cracked and he's trying to resurrect him, or Billy starting up Cranston Tech, which made him want to revive Zordon, or what Billy was up to on Aquitar or something like that. I thought we'd be getting one of those stories, but what we get is we have Billy going on this space journey trying to protect the Power Eggs from this alien race, which is crazy to say out loud with the Power Eggs, because once again the Power Eggs are playing another role in another Power Rangers comic. I mean, they played a big role in Darkest Hour, and although they don't play like a super duper massive role in this one-shot, they do play an important role where we get some lore dropped on them in this one-shot as well, where we find out that the power eggs are the life within the universe, and without them, life ceases to exist. And we get the classic line of, those who control the eggs control the universe. So we've got some Highlander shit going on with the power eggs right now. But this story has Billy sort of trying to survive while protecting the power eggs, and he's doing it alone without his friends. So while Billy is trying to survive, he hears the voices of his friends, and we hear some very familiar lines from the show, like Jason's line, "Isn't the smallest chance we're fighting for," silly ones that people like to goof on these days, like "Billy, you're too high up." But one of the characters Billy meets during this space journey is Adriel. Now, Adriel is this mystery within itself because it's this starfire-looking cosmos entity, and I guess it's up to the reader to decide if this Adriel character did exist or not. Were they real? Were they not real? Were they a hallucination? Were they all in Billy's head the whole time? It's hard to say, but as soon as Billy meets this character, you get some amazing artwork where Billy is just running across the planet, and in the background, off in the distance, you see the sort of cosmos, the universe, the space behind them, having the MMPR colors for these different planets, and it's really freaking cool because Billy is doing this alone. He usually relies on his friends. This is like the first big mission he's had without him. He kind of wishes they were here, but he's doing this on his own, and you kind of get all these colors that reminisce of the MMPR colors. Now, on the last few pages, you have Billy cornered by this alien army on the edge of the planet, and Adriel tells him to jump because when he jumps, he'll be jumping into the center of the universe, and he'll be able to deliver the eggs to the Morphin Masters. So Billy's cornered, and he does take the plunge because he does have the guts to jump down. And when he jumps down, you get this awesome page where as he's falling, you sort of see all the dinosaur symbols behind him, which is really freaking cool to see. But when Billy wakes up on the next page, you find out that he's in a hospital bed, and he goes by Commander Cranston. So Billy being on the space adventure, Billy working on the space mission, you find out that he's worked his way up to the commander role, which is really cool to see. But Billy gets a video call from Tommy, and here you get a glimpse of where the timeline is within this one shot because Billy makes a comment that Tommy is studying for his doctorate. So this is Tommy, fresh off Turbo, going into Dino Thunder. He's studying to get his doctorate so he can be doctoral, of course, which is really cool to see. But during Billy's space adventure, he gets one of his photos torn up and basically destroyed. And it's a photo of him and all of his friends, but Tommy sends him another one. And Tommy tells Billy that his friends will always be with him. And that's where the one-shot ends, where Tommy says, "Hey, we're always going to be with you," and Billy reassures him by saying, "Yes, you are," and he's got a smile on his face, and that's where it ends. So it's a really nice one-shot, and it's a really great Billy story as well. I mean, you get to see Billy being this badass out in space. He's got a pistol, he's got a blaster, he's off having space adventures, and it's Billy sort of becoming more dependent on his own. I mean, even though his friend Franklin does die at the start of the issue, this Spock-looking guy does die at the start of the issue, this is sort of Billy on his own journey of self-discovery, but even though he's doing things alone, his friends are always going to be there with him in spirit, no matter where he is. So it was a really nice Billy story, and I definitely got a kick out of it. I know I was expecting some deep Billy backstory or some Billy lore with what happened in between like Zeo and Once and Always, but I really enjoyed this Billy one-shot. I mean, we got to have a mention of the power eggs and stuff like that. That was really cool, and you get to see David like writing his own Billy story, which is a lot of fun as well because David has been doing Quantum Continuum, which is his own little Power Rangers story that he's been working on himself. So maybe David will turn that into a Power Rangers comic later down the line, or his own screenplay. That's something he's been wanting to work on as well, but maybe we'll see what happens. Who knows? But Billy's story was a lot of fun, and I definitely got a kick out of it. Alright, so the next character to get focus in this book is Tanya in Tanya's Heavy Metal Rescue. And you can tell with the writing in this one-shot written by Nikita is that this story had a lot of love put into it about her character, because we see what the character got up to after Power Rangers Turbo, where we see Tanya has sort of started a music company, her own recording studio, which is something she talked about at the start of Turbo. So she followed her dreams, she followed her goals, and she's actually got her own recording studio, which is really cool to see, which is Sloan Enterprises, I believe it's called. And you actually see her working with an upcoming band, which we don't know what that upcoming band is. It would be cool to see if we can actually see who the characters are. Maybe it's Kira, maybe it's not. I don't think it is, but one of the other characters that makes a return that we haven't seen in a very, very long time is Prince Gasket, which is a character that kind of got lost to time within the Power Rangers history because, you know, after they stopped using the O-Ranger footage, or they probably no longer had use for the suits, they kind of just forgot about the character. And Prince Gasket is one of those characters that people have asked me to make whatever happened to videos on, or whatever happened to the Machine Empire, which I do have a video talking about what happened to Prince Gasket and Archerina on my channel. It's somewhere. You can go find it. I'll probably leave a link to it in the description down below if you want to check it out. But the whole premise of this story is Tanya rescuing Adam from Prince Gasket, where Prince Gasket has kidnapped Adam and he's trying to discover the location of the Zeo Crystal. And what's really cool about this one shot is that it actually takes place within the main continuity of the show. So you see SBA and stuff like that. You see Aisha, you see him in the SBA uniforms. Now, there is some continuity errors within this one shot, which I'll get to in a bit. So there's this scene where Adam is getting interrogated by Prince Gasket. He's sort of got this metal helmet on. They're sort of feeding through his mind to get answers out of him, probe his brain, and you see Adam having all these flashbacks from his past life. And you see all these moments recreated from the show on the sort of screen. And one of the panels you see is Adam saying, "I'm a frog," which, if you knew the MMPR movie with Ivan Ooze, that's its own separate universe. So no idea what this memory's doing in here. I guess it got shuffled within the multiverse of Adams probably. No doubt about it. But I can understand why it was put in there, because it's one of those iconic Adam and Johnny Young Bosch lines that a lot of people remember, a lot of people know about when they think about Adam. I mean, it's one of those iconic Power Ranger moments. It's one of those iconic Power Ranger moments from the MMPR movie. So, of course, Nikita probably couldn't resist putting it in there. And whether it's canon or not, it doesn't bother me. Like I said, it's a fun little moment. It's a fun little Easter egg having in there. We can all speculate and fan theory with what the heck is that flashback doing in Adam's mind when he was being probed. We have no idea. But Tanya ends up busting in there. She saves Adam. She beats the living shit out of Prince Gasket. And we get a really nice moment between the two characters where we have Adam proposing to Tanya, and it ends with them kissing. So it actually progresses the relationship that those two characters was having throughout the show, which is something they were teasing at the start of Zeo. It seemed like they were setting them up to be a couple like Tommy and Kat in the end, but they never fell through with it, which is something that Johnny has talked about at panels at Power Morphicon and Comic-Cons and stuff like that. Like in early scripts of Power Rangers Zeo, it seemed like they were sort of pushing that Tanya and Adam relationship. And even if you go back and watch early episodes of Power Rangers Zeo, you can sort of see those sparks, those moments being set up between the two characters, and then they do nothing with it later down the line. So it's cool to see to get a follow-up with that relationship that the two characters had in the end with it. So you can tell that Nikita had a lot of fun writing this one-shot. And this story I had a lot of fun reading. I mean, like I said, Tanya is one of those characters that we never barely got to see post her departure from the show. So it's cool to get a follow-up story with the character. That's something I always like seeing, like where are they now with the characters, so that's really cool to see as well. Not only that, it falls in line with the once and always continuity with the 30th anniversary, so it shows that there was some homework done with this one shot as well, so that's really cool as well. But overall, this one-shot was a lot of fun and I really, really did enjoy it. And with that said, I will wrap this video up and move on to the next one-shot, which is a Rocky-focused story. So I will see you guys later and catch you in the next video. Peace. Alright, so the next story is called In the Red, written by Matt Groom and Steve Cardenas, and this is the Rocky focus story, or should I say the Rocky's sister focus story. So, Steve Cardenas, ages ago during an interview with Boom Studios, revealed that originally Rocky was meant to have this big family in his character outline, and they never really explored that in the TV show. And then when Matt took over as the writer for Mighty Morphin, he got to give Rocky his own focus story arc where Rocky fought off King Aragon, the father of Archerina, and it was really freaking cool. Like, go back and read that Rocky story, because it's really, really freaking great. But this story is called In the Red, it's written by Matt Groom and Steve Cardenas, and it focuses on Rocky's sister. So what we have Rocky's sister's high school life, Raina, and you find out that she got rejected by a boy, and she kind of wishes that she had the confidence that Rocky had, but she believes that Rocky's got most of that confidence and able to shrug things off. It's because he's a ranger. So because Rocky's like passed out, he's sleeping, he's like got his morpher like beside his bedside, which is kind of funny that he's just hanging onto it while sleeping. She decides to borrow it and use it to morph, so we get to see Raina running around as the female Red Ranger. And it gave me vibes of like Spider-Man 1 with Toby, where Toby was jumping around trying to control the powers, because you kind of get that here where Raina is barely able to control the powers because you have this scene where she trips up while doing some jumps. But not only that, you get to see her hanging out with like other citizens of Angel Grove. She uses the super strength to lift one of them up, but then suddenly, during all this fun and games, she is attacked by a monster called a Bulldog, who is literally a bulldog with bull horns, which is a lot of fun. And because she's not much of a fighter, her first instinct is to run away, and eventually she's cornered by the monster, and Rocky comes in to save the day. And I really love this moment between the siblings, because Rocky's kind of coaching on her how to use the Ranger arsenal, like the Blade Blaster and stuff like that. So you get to see the Bulldog monster get blasted by the Blade Blaster. But not only that, Rocky's making quips because he's dressed in red, so because it's a bulldog with the instincts of a bull and a dog, it's chasing Rocky because he's dressed in red. So because Raina just randomly picked up the morpher and just started using it, well, she can't really control the powers, and Rocky explains when the powers pass from one person to another, there's supposed to be a process that involves a magical space sword, and without that, well, the connection to the Morphin Grid isn't the most stable. So he asks Raina, what were you thinking? And Raina says, hey, I feel like you get all your confidence from your powers. And Rocky says, no, it's not like that. Power down, and I'll explain later. So he explains Raina how the power down, just focus, because if you don't focus, well, the Morphin Grid's probably going to eat you alive or something like that, or it's going to have a bad setback if you power down without a stable connection to the Morphin Grid. So Raina's able to power down, and while this is going on, you've got Rocky fighting the monster unmorphed, which is really freaking cool within itself. Like, Rocky's like going toe-to-toe with this monster, trying to hold it off while Raina powers down. But Rocky soon explains to Raina by saying, hey, my confidence doesn't come from my powers, it comes from the support of my friends. And as he says that, you have the rest of the MMPR team jumping in to fight the monster. And Rocky tells Raina to get the safety and they'll have a chat later. So the final few panels of this issue is Raina saying, hey, my name's Raina DeSantos, I had a bad day, but thankfully I know a guy who's able to turn things around. Not because he's a Power Ranger, because he's the best big brother in the world. And on those final 2 pages, you have Rocky morphing and jumping into action. So this story I really did like, because it got to focus on Rocky, it got to focus on his family, but not only that, it's a nice little family moment between the two characters. But not only that, you get some little like Morphin Grid lore here and there with how the power transfer works and stuff like that, and why someone randomly picking up the morpher isn't the most stable thing if they try using it. So that was really cool as well. But this Rocky story written by Matt and Steve, I really did enjoy. Like, I really got a kick out of it. So props to Matt and Steve for writing this really awesome story. Alright, so the next story in this book is called An Apple a Day. written by Walter Jones. So this is the Zack-focused story. And it's cool to have Walter getting involved with the Boom Studio stuff because Walter is aware of the stuff that goes on in the comics because he's got the fan wood over there. They've done videos with him and Austin where they react to the Omega Rangers stuff, or they're aware of the Omega Rangers stuff, which is really cool. So I like how they're aware of the stuff going on in the comics, and they praised how cool that stuff is going on in the comics. So to be honest, when I first read this story, it didn't click with me right away. I wasn't on board with it right away. Not that it was a bad story, it's just sort of like I read it and then I moved on to the next story. But then because I had to keep rereading these stories for the review, I had to read it a couple of times. On my third or fourth read through of this story, it clicked with me. I understood what this story was about. And the whole premise of this story is Zack sort of being an inspiration to these kids to be like, hey, if you put your mind to it, then you can accomplish anything. So the story opens up with Zack walking home from school and he gets jumped by these other teenagers or these other kids. And Zack, using his hip-hop keto, he's able to maneuver around them. And they ask Zack saying, hey, Zack, how did you get so good at it? And Zack says, well, I was into stuff like sports and gymnastics and dancing and stuff like that. And I just stuck my mind to it and I just got better over time, which is a really good lesson overall, saying, hey, if you stick your mind to it, no matter how big, no matter how small, then you can do it. And I really like that message. So the kids take inspiration from this, but Zack is soon called on a mission from Zordon to help out the Rangers, where they're fighting what I thought was Pumpkin Wrapper, but it's Pumpkin Wrapper's like discount brother, where it's like a Candy Bob apple, which is kind of coincidence that this comes out like the day before Halloween when this comic book dropped, so that's kind of funny. But Zack uses his hip-hop keto to sort of lure it out, use his moves to move around him, which gets the other Rangers to sort of set up in position to start blasting on the apple monster and gets blown to smithereens. It's a very short story that goes by really quickly, I will say that. Maybe that's why I didn't like it at first, because, you kind of read through all the dialogue, and then you have the fight scene, and then the fight scene's over before you know it, so you've got that going on. But yeah, so Zack is able to defeat the monster, and when he's walking back the next day, he sees one of the kids climbing a tree, taking out a balloon for a little girl who got it stuck up there. Because earlier on, Zack is talking to one of the kids, and one of the kids says, oh, I really like climbing, but I'm scared of heights. But Zack does tell one of the kids saying, hey, if you stick your mind to it, then you can do anything. You can overcome those fears if you just focus and practice every day, then you'll overcome it. And that's what the kid ends up telling Zack by saying, hey, I wanted to help the little girl. I knew that climbing the tree was dangerous, but it's like what you told me, Zack. Sometimes you have to push yourself to conquer your fears. I know I'm a good climber, so I knew I was the best candidate for the job. And any fear I had was erased by seeing the smile on Zoe's face, which was the girl who had her balloon stuck in the tree. So Zack is proud of the kid. They give each other a little fist bump, they handshake, it's really cool. It's a really nice moment between the two of them where Zack was an inspiration to the kid to say, hey, if you stick your mind to it, then you can overcome your fears if you just push yourself hard enough, which is a really nice message overall. And that's kind of the message that Power Rangers did set back in the 90s where, hey, you can overcome your fears, you can overcome your goals if you just set your mind to it, which is really nice to see. And although, I was thinking the story would be action-packed, it was a nice little Zack story that kind of encapsulates the character, and I feel like Walter did a really good job writing this Zack story. He knew what his character was about, he had all your little hip-hop keto references in there, but overall it's a really nice message for the reader, but not only that, for the fans of Power Rangers, because it kind of stays true to that 90s cheese that Power Rangers was, but it's having an overall good message. So this story with Zack I really did enjoy, and I definitely got a kick out of it. So yeah, that wraps up the Walter Jones story, the second last story in this book. I will see you guys in the next video, whenever that will drop, on the last story, which is based on Chloe from Hyperforce in Chloe's Chaos Kitchen. So I will see you guys in the next video if you're going to be checking that one out. So peace out, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye! Alright, so we've reached the last story in Power Rangers across the Morphin Grid, and this is the most zaniest, the wackiest one, the silliest one, the goofiest one, the most random access humor out of all of them, Chloe's Chaos Kitchen, written by Megan Camarena. So if you're a fan of Hyperforce or you watched Hyperforce, then you know probably exactly what you're getting into for this one. And if you haven't read Hyperforce and you're just randomly seeing these characters that you've never seen before talk about burritos and talk about random stuff that happened that you probably are unaware of, then you're probably going to be very lost. So I'll just give you the quick rundown. Chloe and Vesper, characters from Hyperforce, a Power Rangers tabletop RPG from a couple of years ago. Really popular within the fandom. A lot of people like it. Some people don't like it. But this one-shot, I feel like Megan just went ham on this one with the writing, because it basically embraces the wackiness and the silliness that was Power Rangers Hyperforce as they were improving as the show went along or the games went along. And this one, it feels exactly like how that would go down. So the whole premise of this one-shot is it's a cooking show. No idea where it's streaming to. I guess ask the readers, because it has weird fourth wall breaks where they're sort of patting down the other panels and stuff like that. You've got Vesper and stuff like that. They're cooking. And the whole premise of this mini story is Chloe and Vesper, they're cooking this candy burrito, which is crazy to say out loud. And when you see it, it looks like a crazy burrito mess that I probably would not want to cook myself, because probably all my teeth would fall out if I bit into that candy burrito. But I just love how wacky and silly this is. Like, it opens up with them sort of doing the introduction like it's a YouTube channel, and then they go over about cooking the candy burrito, and you have these flashbacks where they're not really flashbacks, they're exaggerated stories where Chloe's like, oh yeah, I remember like it happened like it was yesterday, and I kicked Pumpkin Rapper's ass. And Vesper's like, oh, I don't remember it happening like that. And then Chloe just says, oh, I'm just adding some like pizzazz to the story, just sort of spicing it up for the readers. And then Vesper's like, oh, okay then. And then on the next scene, it's like freaking they're riding a unicorn over a rainbow. And it's just like, as soon as you see that stuff, you just know that like you're in for a wild ride. And then you find out how the story really goes from like the little Tamagotchi thing. So it turns out they were fighting Pumpkin Rapper, and while they were fighting Pumpkin Rapper, you had Chloe off trick-or-treating, and then you had Vesper doing it as well, and her Halloween costume is like a sheet over her, like herself, and then she says, I'm a sheet, boo, which you're gonna laugh at me with like how crazy and silly this is. So they cook the candy burrito when they fight Pumpkin Rapper, and the candy burrito, as soon as it's cooked, it's a really cool panel where they're cooking it up. But they cook the candy burrito, they say it's burrito time, and as they slowly go to eat it, Alpha shows up. I think Alpha like 99, there's like, I can't remember which Alpha unit this is. It's one of the Alpha units, I will say that. But it ends with them sort of getting chased around the kitchen, and then they take a bite out of the burrito, and then they pass out from like a sugar rush, I'm guessing. This is 20 candy like minutes later, so they're passed out on the floor and they're trying to eat the burrito, but it looks like they don't finish it. So that's what this one shot is, but it's a lot of fun. Like, I really like the artwork. It's very anime style, it's very pastel colors, it's very vibrant with everything going on. It looks really freaking nice. Like, I really freaking do enjoy it. But yeah, the two pass out, and then they say that's the end of the cooking show at the end of the issue. So this one shot I really did enjoy. Like, I knew what I was getting into when I saw the preview pages about the speech bubbles with how wacky and silly it looked, and having this just like random access humor for like Hyperforce and Chloe and stuff like that. This one shot was like a lot of fun, and I really hope that Hyperforce comes back in the comics later down the line once again. I mean, they played a role in Darkest Hour. They had their one-shot, which was like a sequel to the end of Power Rangers Hyperforce. A lot of people want a Hyperforce Season 2, which I doubt we're going to get, but hopefully one day they can continue it in the form of comics, maybe. If Boom Studios wants to do that, I don't know, fingers crossed. But this one-shot I really did enjoy. Like, it was a good way to end across the Morphin Grid because it's a wacky, silly story. I know it's Hyperforce, like a bunch of characters that probably people don't even know about, but it's cool to have like a team that's not even Mighty Morphin related, but you get to have some wacky, silly fun with it, because They could have got any other Ranger to come back into a story from like the classic era, but to have like a more recent season like Hyperforce in the story with Megan and her wacky, silly sense of humor, this was a lot of fun. Like I really did enjoy this story. But overall, that was Across the Morphin Grid. That's all the stories covered within this one video. Well, I say several videos because I recorded them all in different sessions, but yeah, that was Across the Morphin Grid. What did you guys think of each one of these stories? Rank them down in the comment section down below with which one you liked the most, which ones you liked the least, and what other Rangers would you like to see return to a sequel with Across the Morphin Grid, and what Rangers would you like to see sort of get expanded on in this anthology series? Because if Boom Studios does this again, I'm all for it. Like, bring back a different set of Rangers or actors or voice actors who worked on Power Rangers and let them write a story about their character. That'd be really freaking cool. Or even get people from the community to do something like that. I don't know. I doubt they'd do that. But this Across the Morphin Grid anthology series was a lot of fun, and hopefully Boom Studios does more stuff like this later down the line, because we barely get the annuals anymore when it comes to Power Rangers, and they were sort of random stories across each season, although most of them were Mighty Morphin here and there. But this one was great to see as well, and it's cool to see Hyperforce get some more love involved as well. So props to Hyperforce getting some more love in 2024. So with that said, I think I'm going to bring this video to a close. I will see you guys later. Peace out, take care, and bye. Thanks for watching.